Eat like a king who's on a budget. 3 tasty options, fries, drink, and nuggets. All for $5. Wait, that can't be right. Just confirm that that's the real price. BK, have it your way.
Fantasy Brains is back for NFL Week 2. We've got some great action right now. Oh, I've got some. Sorry, I'm playing the live right now, and I've got some feedback on my end, some little echo. All right, guys, we're ready to go now. It looks a little different this week. I do not have Matthew Cahan with me. It's Charlie Chemers right here, but I've got my good pal, Gabriel Cicerica. How are you today, Gabe?
Charlie, I'm doing well. I'm excited for week 2. I think we had a very interesting week 1, to say the least. So it leaves us with a lot of good talking points heading into the second week of a long NFL season.
Yeah, I'm ready to watch some ball today. I woke up a little bit like hungover. I don't know. We were hanging out last night, and this stupid ass Madden game, dude. We're sitting there playing Madden. We've got the Jaeger bottle out on the table. And I'm playing Madden, not against Gabe, but Gabe is present at this moment against this stupid guy named Fitzbutcheek. And we're playing drinking Madden I'm still so frustrated over this because we're playing for you take a shot after every touchdown and turnover. So we're all the way in the third quarter. I am down a touchdown at this point, driving all the way down the field. I get all the way to the 1 yard line, only for Luke Altmaier to fumble the ball on a quarterback sneak for Fitzbutcheek to then take it back 99 yards the other way for a touchdown. So I go from giving him a shot to then taking 2 shots back to back, and that 3-shot swing put me on the toilet this morning. That's for sure. You're like, what are we even doing right now? We could start talking ball if you want, Gabe, but I want to hear a little bit about your takeaways from week 1 first.
Yeah, absolutely. My takeaways from week 1 were my biggest thing, and I talk about this every single year, especially from the fantasy perspective, is do not overreact after week 1. I saw a ton of people in multiple leagues that I was in who are offering a ton of trades, trying to get rid of players who they're
give me an
offering trades for players who didn't do well in week 1.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you just can't, you should not be offering away players that didn't do well after 1 week after you drafted them, especially if you anticipated them having a good season. This is a long-term thing. You're looking to win championships. 1 week does not define your team, and you cannot just be running around trying to trade away players after they didn't do well in week 1 when there are plenty of weeks in the upcoming NFL season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game-by-game basis. Like, we saw games where just things got out of hand, where Jahan Dotson is the wide receiver 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles. We don't expect that, obviously, the rest of the season. Things like Calvin Ridley had a really tough matchup against the best cornerback in the NFL, Pat Surtain. So, there are just different situations, obviously, that make it so we shouldn't overreact to week 1. Do you have the biggest player that you are overreacting on, or that you want to not overreact on?
The biggest player I want to not overreact on is Devontae Adams. I think he's set to have a really good season, and his week 1 performance, I think he had a tough matchup, and Puka Nacua kind of was fed the entire game when the game script wasn't really in his favor. I think when they have a lot more closer matchups and are throwing the ball a little bit more, that Adams will have some good weeks. He also had 8 targets last week, which people are not really talking about. The ball was coming his way. Those will lead to reception. So really like Adams, I don't think you should get rid of him after 1 bad week.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we could go through that game where the Texans have an amazing defense already. I think they're a top 5 defense. So that was hard already for this Rams. That game was probably going to be a little bit more low scoring than expected. And then when it got just became low scoring, then there's nothing they could do. Also, Matt Stafford and Devontae Adams haven't really been practicing together. Matt Stafford didn't practice all offseason, so it makes sense that there would be a little bit of a rocky start for that connection, but we did see it. We saw a nice back shoulder ball to Devontae from Matt Stafford, and I think that that's going to grow. They're both really experienced players. You're so right about that. I'm super excited for what we're going to see. Guys, remember, chat's open. Bring on the questions for this week. It is week 2. We're going to start getting into these games for this week. Gabe, who is your start of the week?
My start of this week is Ricky Pearsall. And he might not be the guy I think you have to start over all these other players. but he is someone who has received a lot of controversy this week, given the fact that Brock Purdy isn't playing. And I really want to clear this up because I think Pearsall is still a must start, even without Purdy in the lineup. The starting quarterback this week for the 49ers will be Mac Jones. And I know to some people, that's like, whoa, no way. I cannot start Pearsall given that Mac Jones is playing. But people forget that last season, a big catalyst of Mac Jones was Brian Thomas Jr. Thomas Jr. actually had a ton of better weeks playing with Mac Jones than he did with Trevor Lawrence last season. And now Ricky Pearsall comes into a situation where, look, George Kittle isn't there. He is on the IR. He'll be out for the next 4 weeks at least. So they don't have a ton of targets to throw to. Juwan Jennings has been dealing with injury, although he is starting. Pearsall is their only really healthy starting receiver. And when you talk about the 49ers, like, of course, they're going to run the football with McCaffrey, and they're going to throw the football to McCaffrey like he's going to eat up targets. But Pearsall becomes that clear second option, and he's coming off a 4-reception week, 4 for 7, where he had 110 yards. He was making big plays across the middle of the field. I think a similar game script and a similar stat line is coming Pearsall's way. And if you're reaching that 100-yard mark week to week, I mean, you are a must-start in fantasy. So I'm liking Pearsall no matter who's starting at quarterback this week.
Yeah, I think you laid it out nicely because to me, it's Kyle Shanahan. I trust that Kyle Shanahan is going to put a quarterback like Mac Jones in the right situations, and the right situations are manufacturing touches for Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey when you don't have George Kittle, when Juwan Jennings is still coming off of the ankle injury. Ricky Pearsall is a go-to guy for a sit of the week. I like this one a lot, Gabe. Explain to me why Isaiah Pacheco probably isn't going to do so well against the Philadelphia Eagles, and does it have anything to do with Hakan Alugi?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Well, part of it does actually. I mean,
Totally.
Jalen
Completely.
Jalen Carter coming back is a big reason
You're
why.
going to be mad.
Yeah, a big
I mean,
reason
this is a
why
rematch.
I'm not starting Pacheco. I mean, it's a Super Bowl rematch, and the Eagles totally got the Chiefs number. So you think the Chiefs are going to come in, at home and really play this good game? And I think the game itself could actually be close, but I think Pacheco's really going to struggle against this Eagles defensive line, who last week the Eagles D line did not look so good. They let a big run up to guys like Miles Sanders, who at this point in 2025 probably isn't the best thing, and allowed 2 rushing touchdowns to Javonte Williams. But Jalen Carter, like you said, was literally taken out of the game after the first play for spitting on Dak Prescott. That will not happen again today. Plus, I'm not a big fan of Pacheco this season as a whole. I think he's one of the worst starting running backs to have in fantasy.
He
I
didn't
think
get a very good split last week. They were
exactly.
50-50 with Kareem Hunt on the rushes.
Kareem Hunt gets touches, and they're not rushing the ball so much in the first place. I think Pacheco is bound to be an inefficient running back this season, coming off of what was a serious leg injury. And I think the Chiefs are slowly but surely going to look to move away from Pacheco, especially if they see a lot of success this season. And the rushing game isn't there. They're looking to win Super Bowls. They might bring in another guy. I think Pacheco is on that downswing, and I think it's coming pretty fast. And I don't see him having a very productive game this week. And I don't think the receiving upside is there either. There are some running backs that you can rely
Kareem
on.
Hunt, he's the
Where
receiving back.
exactly, there's some guys you can rely on to really make those plays, even if they're not efficient in the run game. And Pacheco isn't that guy, and that just doesn't leave me with a whole lot of options this week for him to score points besides finding the end zone.
Yeah. While we're still on the topic with the Chiefs, then walk me through this first 6 weeks of the wide receiver core. What do you think we're going to see out of the next 5 weeks of the season?
Yeah, this is important. Travis Kelce is an option for sure. He's their biggest red zone threat, and I think that matters.
Really?
Because
I mean, he got that one touchdown that was a long touchdown. Personally, I was very disappointed with Travis Kelce's performance. I think he clearly showed signs of slowing down, and the offense showed signs of trying to edge him out. And I feel like Juju might honestly be a better option than Kelce.
I think you're right in the first half of things that you said. Like,
You just
they're
don't like
definitely.
Juju?
I don't love Juju so
He
much,
sucks, but
but I think Kelce has that role in the red zone that matters. I
okay.
think he's going to score touchdowns for this team, and that's going to give you fantasy production, especially at the tight end position where there are a lot of guys who are going to score you 10 to 12 points a game. I think Kelce can be that guy. But Hollywood Brown is by far the biggest benefactor for the next few weeks with both Rice and Worthy out because
Yeah.
he's just going to be a target machine. He saw 16 targets last week with
Yeah.
9 receptions and 99 yards. Not even elite wide receiver ones. You can pick any offense in the NFL. These receivers are not getting that type of target and target shares. So for Hollywood Brown to have 16 targets, I mean, he is going to eat the next few weeks, and they use him all across the field. Short
Absolutely.
passes, midfield, long passes. Mahomes is looking his way um, throughout. The only other guy I really would like to talk about is Jalen Royals really quickly because I think Royals is
Oh,
an option that we need to see on the field. I liked Royals coming into camp. I liked him out of college. I think as a late round guy, he could actually find some time in this offense given the Rice situation. And now you have Worthy out. Like Royals needs to come in, whatever this little nagging knee injury that he's dealing with. Like he needs to figure out and get on the field because this would be his time to actually prove the things that I saw in training camp and in college in the NFL. So I'm really banking on Jalen Royals actually getting on the field soon because I think he could carve a role in this offense for sure.
interesting. When I look at this offense, I see Hollywood Brown, obviously, and I see that as the Xavier Worthy role. I think he's going to be getting a lot of targets when he's back and healthy. And so we are on the timetable for Xavier Worthy. It does look like he might be back next week, not week 2, but week 3 or week 4.
Mhm.
And so that kind of limits Hollywood Brown's, usage rates for the next. You can start him for maybe this week and the next week after that, but I really wouldn't go out there and trade for him because we're not so certain about when Xavier Worthy is coming back, and it could be sooner rather than later. But in regards to Juju Smith-Schuster, he's only 28 years old. I mean, we've seen Juju go around the NFL already. We've seen him play good football. We've seen him play bad football. At the end of the day, I think it's really matchup dependent. I like him in this offense. In this game specifically, I'm not considering starting him at all because he's going to see a lot more Cooper DeJean. We'll see if Cooper DeJean goes with Kelsey or if he goes with on the slot wide receiver in Juju, but Juju is in that Rashee Rice role for the next 5 weeks. We know that Rashee Rice is coming back after week 6. So we know that Juju will be involved for then. I'm honestly a little bit more excited to have Juju on my rosters than Hollywood Brown, even though I can start Hollywood Brown for these next couple weeks potentially. Does that make any sense to you?
It does. I actually didn't really want to hate on Juju either because I thought he had a nice
Right.
performance in week 1. Like
Yeah.
he caught a bunch of
Surprising.
passes and I was like, oh,
Involved.
okay. I didn't really realize he was that next guy up. I kind of almost forgot about Juju. No, I think Juju is a reliable option in this offense. I think he's going to be a relatively consistent floor. I just don't think his ceiling is very high.
Okay.
But he's
Totally.
someone that I wouldn't mind, especially getting a waiver wire pickup on him, someone to keep on your offense. Like he seems to be that next guy up for Kansas City, and that's enough for me.
Yeah, if you find yourself like already in a rough spot come week 4, week 5, Juju could very well be in your starting lineup. Now, I want to jump around a little bit. So if you guys have any questions about your lineups this week, go ahead, throw them in the comments. We will start answering them right away. But I want to jump around to a combo you'll like a little bit where I want to walk through the rookie performances from week 1. So when we look at rookie drafts, it all starts with Ashton Genty. How do you feel about Ashton Genty after week 1? If you're a dynasty manager of Ashton Genty or even just a redraft season-long manager, how are you feeling about Genty's performance against the New England Patriots?
I actually love his performance against New England because
Really?
it made a bunch of people freak out. And I'm like,
That's
I'm
good.
like,
That's good.
dude, like it's okay. He still found a way to get in the end zone. Obviously, his yards per carry wasn't good. He barely had any yards on the ground. He didn't
Yeah.
catch a lot of passes. I mean, you can point out to a million things. Oh, realistically, he didn't have a great game. But for one, the game script wasn't great. And it's clear that Geno Smith and the Raiders are going to throw the football. And I probably could have told you that coming into the season because Geno Smith is a certified gunslinger. Like he's going to throw the football.
Yeah,
So Genty, I
you
think, is
like
going to
it.
be just fine. They're just going to the Raiders need to figure out what their identity looks like. And he's going to be a part of that, whatever that may be. If they're going to be a
Okay.
bigger passing team, Genty might not receive as many carries as we might have hoped, but he could catch some short passes in this offense
Yeah.
and vice versa. If they're realizing, hey, maybe this passing offense isn't working as well as we thought, Genty's going to feast. And if their offense is good doing both, he's going to have a ton of red zone opportunities that I didn't expect him to have in this season. I think Genty is going to be just fine. And especially if this Raiders offense, like I said, is actually improving and Geno Smith in them are able to score throwing the football, they're going to end up leading to more Gentry touchdowns because realistically, I didn't think this offense was going to be in the red zone a whole lot. I thought they're going to be pretty poor. So I'm totally
Okay.
fine with Gentry. He's going to be just fine. And
So
I
that's
would not
all.
overreact.
That's all well and good, but let's get nitty gritty on this. Gentry was going at the back end of the first rounds in fantasy football drafts. I want to know if you think we're going to be able to see actual positive EV on that selection, whether or not you think that pick is going to be worth it. Do you think, can you give me a range of where you think Gentry is going to finish? Like RB, I would say for me, my range is probably somewhere between the running back 5 and the running back 11. I do think he's going to be a certified running back 1. I'm just not so sure that we saw the good enough ceiling from him to be a real top 4 running back this year.
I agree with you. I was someone who actually kind of avoided Gentry a little bit in my drafts, and I tend to do this with primarily every rookie in redraft leagues. I find the risk reward to be a little scary, where especially when you're drafting guys in the first round, it's like, do I really need to take that risk anyways when Derrick Henry's right there and, other pretty elite running backs in redraft? I think I agree with you that like 7 to 11, 12 range is where I'm leaning right now. Which I guess
so probably not
fantasy
paying off then.
Yeah, I guess for redraft managers that can be a little concerning. I guess I was talking more from like a bigger dynasty perspective of like I still think Gentry's super talented and it's going to score a ton. But
he went 6th overall in the NFL draft. He's expected to be a great player in this league, but we really want to see, is he going to win your fantasy championships? And right now, it probably looks like you should have picked Derrick Henry, right?
Yeah.
You feel that confident about that, about the whole season though, too?
I do. I feel confident about that the whole season. They're just proven guys, and Gentry isn't proven yet. And you're going to see flashes. There are going to be weeks where he has the 130-yard rushing week and has 15 to 20 carries and has a touchdown. You're like, this is why I drafted him. But then there's going to be other weeks like we saw last week where he's going to struggle. The game script isn't going to be in his favor. And I think that's just a part of being a rookie running back for the most part in the NFL.
All right, let's hit Travis Hunter, who had a really interesting week where he played some defense, played a lot of offense. Brian Thomas Jr. didn't see very many receptions. Travis Hunter didn't even see that many receptions, but they both saw a good amount of targets. It looked like T-Law was just not right. Are we going to see a bounce back from week 2? Give me some analysis on Travis Hunter specifically, and I guess a little bit of the Jags as a whole.
I'm really excited about Travis Hunter. Last week it was game script, and he still received that target share that I was looking for. He's playing in the slot like what I wanted. Travis Hunter playing in the slot in this Liam Cohen offense will lead to him being a very good fantasy receiver. The only concern was if he plays more defensive snaps, would that eat away at his offensive snaps? What is that going to look like? But I think that's a very minimal thing. I'm starting Travis Hunter in week 2 this week because I think that he is set to do very well in this slot role. And I don't think people understand that enough. Like 6 receptions or 6 targets last week, forget about, okay, he got like 30 something yards. You should be able to look at that and be like, he's going to be involved in this offense.
Yeah.
And now they're going to be playing in a game that I think is going to be a lot more competitive than what we saw last season. Projected to be the highest scoring fantasy game this week. Bengals Jaguars. Start Hunter with confidence this week, knowing that he's going to be fed the football in a role that's going to score points.
Okay. That's a lot of fun. I mean, I definitely think that Hunter can become very involved very quickly in this offense. I'm a little worried about this week because we didn't see him like go crazy yet. But if Hunter scores a touchdown this week, that would be awesome. We've got our very own Matthew Cahan hopping in the chat with his questions, Gabe. He's got Charbonnet on the Seahawks playing the Steelers, who looks to be like the potential year-long starter, but we could see Kenneth Walker come back and have some vengeance this week. Or we've got Aaron Jones, who's also in a timeshare committee with Jordan Mason, and the Minnesota Vikings are playing the Atlanta Falcons. What do we think about that, Gabe?
Well, shout out Matthew Cahan, first of all. And second of all, man, I hate that question because then they both kind of stink. If that, like, I think that Charbonnet does have a role in this Seattle offense where I didn't expect this as much coming into the season, but I think Walker plays more this game. I think he was still nursing a bit of a foot injury last week. I think you're going to see a little bit more of a 50-50 split and not as much as we saw from Charbonnet last week. And I don't love Aaron Jones because I think he's really moving towards like primarily just the receiving upside. And that's good in PPR formats, don't get me wrong. But I don't like that Jordan Mason has 64 yards on the ground and was really the primary running back, where Aaron Jones would not have scored a ton of points last week if he didn't catch that touchdown. So I would start Charbonnet this week, but
Huh.
reluctantly, given that I think the Steelers have a pretty decent running defense as well. And
Yeah.
I don't want to rely on Jones just catching passes.
I will disagree with you on this for sure. I mean, I think that what you're saying about Kenneth Walker and stuff is interesting, where I think Kenny surprisingly was playing the pass catching role last week. And so that kind of just removes Charbonnet essentially from this at all for me, because they're playing the Steelers. I don't know if it's going to be as high scoring as Steelers Jets, but I don't think it will be. I would imagine that the Steelers defense is actually going to figure out a way to lock up Sam Darnold. To me, Aaron Jones in this game is a fine play, because if this is a high scoring game, like we think this Minnesota and Atlanta teams can, if they can both be high powered offenses, there's no reason to not start Jones. He's healthy right now. You should definitely be starting Jones while he's healthy, even if Jordan Mason is going to play the majority of the rushes. He's going to get 65% of the carries. I'm still fine with Aaron Jones against the Atlanta Falcons. But let's move on. Matthew, he's starting Aaron Jones. Appreciate a lot you hopping in. Shimon, Matthew Cahan's great father, is trying to figure out whether or not he should start Trevor Lawrence or Drake May in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. I think you're going to hit this one on the head, Gabe. Go ahead.
Dude, these are both good plays, honestly. I
No,
like
one's
both of
better
these.
than the other, though.
Ooh, I kind of
Yeah,
want to hear
for
what you have to
sure.
say first. I want to see if I agree with you.
6-point passing touchdown. We got to go Trevor Lawrence. In this game, the high scoring game, like, he is destined to throw more touchdowns this week than Drake May. That, I think, is a guarantee. This Miami Dolphins defense is a little rough, and so Drake May might be able to run all over them. But I think in a 6 points per passing touchdown league, like, let's go for it and start Trevor Lawrence and hope this game is like 35-36, you know?
Okay, we were on the same page, man. I was a little nervous. I was going to like put on the spot and be like,
No,
"Yo,
for
no, what are you
sure.
talking about?" Yes,
This
for
one's
me, it's
easy.
Trevor Lawrence too. And I talked about it. If I'm starting Travis Hunter, the confidence is there that Trevor Lawrence has a good game, and I have a million ripes about Trevor Lawrence, especially the fact that he literally turns the ball over every single football game. But I think he will throw touchdowns this week. If he gets like 3 touchdowns in the air, it's bound to have a good fantasy day, even if he is turning the ball over, maybe once or twice.
All right. So let's jump back towards those rookies a little bit and keep talking, so we can get some people feeling confident or figure out if they need to trade their rookies. Omarion Hampton, how are you feeling about his performance in week 1?
A little disappointing because I don't think it's him, and that is a big concern. I think his talent is there. I think he's a very good running back, but my eyes said, "Oh man, that Chargers offensive line is not good." Every time
Mhm.
Hampton touched the football, he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage, and like I said, I feel like a lot of that wasn't his fault, and that's concerning because
How
if
much does the matchup weigh?
the matchup does matter. I mean, it
Okay.
does week to week, but I think the grand scheme of things, where you're looking at a team that has a really hard time blocking, that rush blocking as a whole, you're going to have a lot of poor performances from Hampton that are, I don't want to say like out of his control, but it's just the way
Mhm.
that it is. And
Mhm.
that's like exactly what we saw last week. We got 50 yards on the ground, didn't really have a ton of explosive plays. And
Yeah.
it was frustrating to watch him get hit over and over again
Yeah.
right as he touches the football.
He
But
did have he
that's
did have
inevitable.
95% of the rushing carries, and he
Mhm.
also had one more target than Najee Harris. Do we think that it's possible that he can maintain that kind of rushing share in this offense? Seems
No.
unlikely, right?
It's very unlikely because I'm not the biggest Najee guy. I think Hampton is still the one in this offense for the foreseeable future of the season. But I think you're going to see stuff that's a lot closer to like 70-30, 60-40 than what we saw last week.
Okay.
Because Najee is dealing with that eye injury. He missed a ton of training camp. There's going to be, and I don't think Harbaugh really wants to have this anything more than what a committee would look like. And he doesn't really. I don't think he wants to run his rookie running back in the ground. I think Najee being there is important for Hampton to get rest, to stay healthy, to have longevity in this football league. And I don't think it's really going to change throughout the season.
Okay, so let's talk range again and where we're thinking value. So Travis Hunter was going a few rounds later than Omarion Hampton in redraft leagues, where Omarion Hampton ended up getting boosted up to around the third round. He was going in pretty consistently towards the end of August before leagues started. So Hampton was going there, and Travis Hunter was going sometimes round 5, 6. You could even get him in round 7 sometimes, and sometimes people would reach around 4 because he was obviously a very polarizing player. Where do you think you're going to be seeing the value, and do you think Hampton is looking like a miss right now?
I think Hunter kind of holds his value. He's
You don't
going to
think
be
he has opportunity to outperform that draft price?
not a ton, which is why I was concerned on Hunter's draft price in the first
Okay.
place. I think if he's like gets a ton of receptions, which is what I was hoping in that slot role, that he'll outperform his ADP, something like what we saw with Chris Godwin last year, which is I think is still possible, but it's going to take a lot. And then
Okay.
because you're expecting him to have a arguably 1,100 yard season, 11,
Well,
1,200 yard season.
I'm thinking if he's probably a top 20 wide receiver in fantasy, that's probably at least paying off quite well.
Mhm. So I think, yeah, that's probably fine.
Yeah.
Hampton, I am concerned with. I think he's gonna. Here's where I'm at.
Can he be a top 15 running back this year?
He can be a top 15 running back,
Okay.
but I'm concerned about him because of what I mentioned with the offensive line and
Yeah.
what I think is going to be more of a committee backfield. But you have to take running backs there because the way that the drafts work is like you're going to have a lot more receivers to hit on that are going to be consistent week to week because we're talking about receiver 2s and 3s in certain offenses. Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter can be good, whereas realistically, week to week, I don't think Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris can be good and score you the points that you want. So
Yeah.
Hampton can be a miss, but I think players like that are worth the risk if they
Right.
are, they become something.
Well,
elite.
there were a lot of running backs going after him, though. I mean, that could potentially be looking better. So let me ask you a couple, this or that.
Okay.
Omarion Hampton or Chuba Hubbard rest of season?
It's hard. Chuba Hubbard, I think.
Omarion Hampton or Travis Etienne rest of season?
Omarion Hampton.
Oh, okay. Omarion Hampton or let's go with like a Kyron Williams.
I'd rather have Kyron Williams.
Okay. How about like Jack Charbonnet?
I'd rather have Omarion Hampton than Zach Charbonnet.
I'd rather have Hampton. Okay. So we're still looking like Hampton is, around the same area, but maybe that we have some more confidence in those later round running backs now. They've kind of just jumped him a little bit. Let's go to Travion Henderson. How do you feel about his week 1 performance? That was an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, his performance wasn't that exciting, but I think his role in this offense is a lot more exciting than what we saw.
Kind of what we thought it would be, though, right?
Yeah, and that is a good thing because he's going to have opportunities on the field, and Travion is going to be a pass-catching running back, and that's why that's really exciting. Him catching passes in New England and hopefully getting in the end zone will lead to a ton of PPR points in an offense that I do think is going to get better throughout the season. So I like Travion. Travion is someone that I thought was really good value in redrafts this year.
Yeah, I mean, he started getting up there with Hampton. Would you rather have Travion than Hampton?
I would because of the receiving upside. Like that is so big in fantasy. And the only real concern I had was like how long will it take for Travion to really like take over Ramondre's role? But I think it's pretty clear, like he's going to be playing a ton right away. And that's all I really needed to see because I think his talent is there.
Yeah, I think we're really just waiting to see one big play from him, and then that's going to get him more touches in the rushing game because he's already the defined pass catching back. I really have no problem placing him in that role. Now, this guy is pretty fun to talk about because we're going to see him this week. He's supposed to get between 10 and 15 snaps, I think, or maybe 15 to 20, it said this morning. Quinshon Judkins will be playing for the Cleveland Browns this week. Very surprisingly, I honestly don't know even how we got here. Like, he's had no offseason, but maybe he's been studying the playbook. Maybe he's been grinding just as hard. Seems like nothing happened in the courtroom. Seems like he's good to go. What can we expect anything from him right now?
No.
You're not starting him, right? You're not.
Not this week.
Next week?
but potentially next week, which is crazy,
Ooh,
right? Like that's
yeah.
crazy to say out loud because I've talked to friends of mine who have Quinshon Judkins, and one of them especially was really like, he's going to start soon. Like he's going to be
Wow.
a top 12 running back this season after he plays, like super, super high on Quinshon. And I'd argue that like I clown him for it. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like he's just coming back. He won't be good until at least week 4, week 5. But it's clear that the Browns want him to go right now. And that's a good thing. Like you want
Yeah.
Quinshon playing, especially
It-
when his running backs were inefficient and the points really came from Dylan Sampson catching passes. If Quinshon is catching 6 or 7 passes like Dylan Sampson was last week, he's going to have a ton of value right away.
Yeah, the one thing that quells any like disappointment from the general community where we're all super disappointed, we're worried about Quinshon because of these legal stuff. The one thing that quells it better than anything else is confidence from their team. And it seems like the Cleveland Browns are more excited than anyone in the whole world to see Quinshon Judkins on a football field. And so if you're a fantasy owner of him, you love that. I mean, you appreciate the fact that no matter what everything else is going on in the world, they're still going to try to put him out there. Now, it is the Cleveland Browns, so we know that we've seen it time and time again where even though they're really excited about a player who has some off-field issues, they still fall on their face because they can't manage their organization properly, and it puts them in a terrible headspace. We saw with Deshaun Watson, it just doesn't breed for football success. Hopefully, Quinshon Judkins is the exception. Do we think that's possible?
Of course, it's
Okay.
possible. But those are things I think are really hard to actually look at and predict as a fantasy owner, where I think it's almost like not really worth your time to like really sit around and try to figure out if that's going to happen or not. At the end of the day, the Browns are not a very well-run organization, and they're probably not going to be a very successful football team this season. But looking at it at face value, Quinshon is what I hope to be a good NFL running back with a ton of talent. And I think that's good enough for me right now, early on in the season before I really make some, bigger takes on how good he's going to be.
Yeah. The talk of Rookie Town is playing on Monday night. Emeka Egbuka. How high can this man finish this year? Like, what are we expecting? What are we ready for? I mean, are you already pounding the table that he was a crazy value in drafts and we should be confident in him all year?
Like, yeah, I mean, I told you
Like,
all, Brainiac,
yeah.
like to start him last week, and that worked out well for you guys
Mm-hmm.
because he is just he plays with a quarterback that just loves to feed his receivers. Like Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay is such a good fantasy quarterback because all of his wide receivers eat. Mike Evans will find a way to score touchdowns to get yards. We saw what happened with Chris Godwin last season, and people were worried about Liam Cohen leaving, and that was a fair thing to say. But like Emeka comes in as a clear second option in this Tampa Bay receiving group because
He
obviously Mike
scored 2
Evans is still playing.
touchdowns. Oh my God.
And why
Yeah.
can't he be the number one option? Evans is only getting older. I think he's less versatile. And Mecca gives you everything on the football field. He can catch the short passes. He's good after the catch. He's good on long passes. He scored 2 touchdowns. Only positive things to say for Mecca Igbuka. He could be a top 12 wide receiver this season.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's pretty difficult to trade for. I think in Dynasty, he's pretty much impossible to trade for. If you're in a redraft league and he doesn't have the best week this week, I would go out there and definitely try to get him. If you like, because as soon as he has, 2 or 3 great weeks in a row, he's going to be untouchable because then he's a guaranteed top 12 wide receiver almost at that point. Because that's the kind of trajectory that he really looks to be on if he continues at this pace. And there's no saying what a top 12 rookie wide receiver could do. He looks awesome. I'm all wheels ahead for Emeka Egbuka. But
I'll tell
let's
you the
talk
most
RJ
talented guy,
Harvey.
too.
Oh, do you have someone else on Egbuka?
Just quickly, I thought he was the
Yeah.
most talented guy coming into the
Yeah,
most
so did
talented rookie
Mahan.
receiver in the draft anyways. So this is just kind of like icing on the cake for me. It's like,
Yep.
he has a
Watching it come
role
to
that he's
fruition.
playing, and I think he's super talented. But yeah, RJ Harvey I like too, Charlie. I think his
Saw a little bit.
performance in week 1 was, how do I describe this? It's difficult to judge because he actually didn't play that much. And
No.
they were running 3 running back sets
Yeah,
in Denver.
Tyler Beatty, come on, get off the field.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
why was Tyler Beatty in the field? or on the field, but also when Sean Payton was asked about it, he said it's pretty difficult to sustain the 3 running back sets, and that he's been good with running 2 RB sets, is what we've
Yeah.
known with Sean Payton for the last 20 years. So that's, I think, promising. Like, it
Yeah.
sounds like he's going to move back to the 2 running back sets, and RJ Harvey showed that explosiveness that I liked, but I need him to find that receiving role, which he wasn't in week 1.
I think it's just a case of week 1, like you're saying, where they just wanted to make sure they had confidence guys out there. It was a closer scoring game than expected. Potentially, the Broncos were really in it against the Titans, so I think that Tyler Beatty just took advantage of that situation in the pass catching role. I do really think what we saw out of RJ Harvey was exactly what we wanted, being the explosiveness, the speed. I mean, he had only about 7 or 8 touches, I think, total. And one of his went for 60-yard run. And that looked great. And I really do think that this tandem of J.K. Dobbins and RJ Harvey, obviously, can look a lot like what we saw in New Orleans with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, and that kind of style of breakdown of how we see this offense going. Unfortunately, I'm not so sure that with this strong defense that employs a ton of value for this offense and their running backs compared to what we saw, obviously, in Kamara, who was just absolutely insane. And Mark Ingram was also crazy with how many touchdowns that he scored. But I do think we will see a marginal amount of fantasy success from both of them. And I'd honestly look for both of them to be values. I just don't really see either of them, blowing off the doors and being a top 15 running back this season.
Yeah, the Ingram Kamara comparisons are really good, but the only concern I have with those comparisons, because it's going to be like a similar style, but I don't think that they're the same talents. And
No,
that,
not necessarily. I mean, I think J.K. Dobbins is just as good as Mark Ingram probably, but it's just that Sean Payton system. That's what he
yes,
employs wherever he goes.
yes, I don't want any reviewers to think, oh my gosh, dude, like these guys are going to be, Alvin Kamara, but they are going to have opportunities to score points, and that's all you can really ask for.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, you pick the next rookie, because we could go with a lot of different guys here.
Let's talk about Ted. I think he's probably the most
Oh yeah, we jumped
valuable
him.
rookie that we haven't talked about yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I say let's talk about Ted, but I don't think there's that much to talk about. Like, he looked totally fine in the first week, but the Panthers' offense is just bad.
Yep.
And he's going to have weeks where he's going to score a ton of points. I don't think, and this is my concern about him going into the year, I think it's still the same. I don't think Ted is that versatile as a wide receiver. So I don't know. You talk about that a little bit. Like, do you think that Ted is someone who is going to be catching a multitude of different passes in this offense, or is he going to be more of like a big play type of receiver?
Yeah, I think he can be involved underneath for sure. I saw him. He had a good target share. He was involved underneath. I like him on out routes, on slants. I like him on digs. I think that he can genuinely, with the size of his body and his frame, I think he can create a lot of separation closer to the quarterback. My problem is Bryce Young did not look good. Bryce Young did not look good. The Panthers also have no other wide receivers. Xavier Legette is absolutely garbage. He's straight buns. Like, he can almost be cut for most of your fantasy teams because he's not looking good. I thought Tet was smooth. I thought he looked great. He's probably the best player in this offense. Unfortunately, the offense does not look good. Now, it was just week 1. So, like, maybe Bryce Young bounces back, but that was not the Bryce Young that we saw at the end of last year, and it certainly wasn't the Panthers that we saw. I'm not excited for them. Hopefully they can bounce back. I mean, they played the Jaguars. The Jaguars do not have that good of a defense.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, that
The
was not
Cardinals
what I was
aren't good either. They
expecting.
play them this week. If they don't go off start playing well against the Cardinals, at least,
And we saw
probably
good
not
things
going to
from
be.
Bryce Young at the end of the season where I
Yeah.
was like, ooh, this is exciting. Like, I wrote stuff about Bryce Young. I made a video about him. I'm like, he looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, he could be a real legit quarterback in this league. And him coming out and playing like that in week 1, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, this is
Right.
bad.
But
So we'll see.
if I do think Tet's ceiling is like extremely high though, because if Bryce Young starts playing well, I think Tet will be really good. The only problem is if we don't see it from the Panthers within the next, 3 or 4 weeks, then his ceiling is probably limited to, maybe wide receiver 16 to 24. And then it's like, okay, you are solid. You are the star wide receiver on a crappy team. And it is what it is. But I do think if they are a good football team, his ceiling can get upwards of wide receiver 10, wide receiver 9, and that would be really exciting for him.
For sure. I need to see a more consistent floor instead of what I feel like right now is more of a boomer bust type of week to week
Yeah.
fantasy production. No one wants those guys in fantasy. You don't want boomer bust guys
Mhm.
because when it's time to win the championship, you need to have guys that you can rely on, and
Right.
hopefully Tech can be that guy. But we haven't seen it yet.
Let's talk floor guy then, Tyler Warren.
Yeah, that was my next guy too.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, for floor, like he is guaranteed involved the great, receiving option, great after the catch. Daniel Jones went off. Can we expect to see more of that?
No, I'm being a little overdramatic. Yes, I think Daniel Jones has a good role in this offense to be productive, but it's not going to be like week 1 every single week. It's just impossible. Like
Yeah.
that's just they
So then
just
do we think Tyler Warren hit his ceiling week 1? Like, do we think it's going
no.
to
That's a
Okay.
good thing though, because
Okay.
I think Warren is just scratching the ceiling for how good he can be, and
Mhm.
the Colts don't stop talking about him. Like he is the name that you've heard all of training camp over and over and over again. You're like, okay,
Mhm.
that's a good sign, whatever. And then he comes in the game, and the first quarter alone, he had 3 or 4 receptions. He finished with 7 for the game, like 63 yards. That is a very, very nice floor for a tight end right away. And there's no reason why he can't do that every single week, because it wasn't like crazy production, but that Daniel Jones is looking for him, because he said it in the post-game interview as well. He all they do is talk highly about Tyler Warren being productive in this offense. I think you need to be more concerned about the guys like Josh Downs and Michael Pittman on how consistent they're going to be week to week, instead of someone like Tyler Warren, which I think
Really?
Jones is going to look at more in this offense.
I'm very happy with Michael Pittman. We were talking a lot about him last week, about how we kind of saw this playing out, and I was very much on the side of I liked the wide receivers, and I'm going to bring up a guy that's we weren't even talking about, but Michael Pittman and Keon Coleman. I think they were both
Yeah.
guys that I was heavily drafting in that area. They were both going around the same range where it just seemed like they could get a ton of targets out of nowhere in these crowded wide receiver rooms, where I think the quarterback just had something in their head saying, I should go to that guy. And Michael Pittman and Daniel Jones, I think, have that connection already. And I think that what we saw over the offseason, where everyone was kind of getting hyped over Keon Coleman, I think something ticked in Josh Allen's head where it's like, if we want to be really, really good, I should start trying to throw it to this guy and help him develop. And so I think that Keon is going to be the next Michael Pittman. And I think Pittman is a underrated wide receiver. I think he gets too much hate.
Pittman does get too much hate. He was injured all of last season. He was playing with this back injury that they kept telling us about. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, he's going to miss time. And then he played every single week, which I'd
And
argue was
whenever he
worse.
Right, and whenever he played with a non-Anthony Richardson quarterback, he saw upwards of a 25% target share.
Mhm. I like Pittman too. I talked about
Right.
Pittman and Downs going into the season in a video I made on the Leatherbrains TikTok, where I thought
Baller.
I was totally comfortable drafting them. I was drafting Downs a lot more
Mhm.
than
Downs
Pittman.
is a little disappointing now, though, the outlook at least, right?
And that was disappointing, right? 2 receptions, 18 yards. I'm like, dude, what?
Yeah,
That doesn't make any
but
sense considering how their
they
offense did.
game style, game script, it
Mhm.
kinda scripted him out, so but they do play the Broncos this week, so we are talking, even though you shouldn't start any of your Colts, honestly. Are you starting Jonathan Taylor? You kinda have to, right?
You kinda have to. The way you draft Taylor is like he's
Yeah.
starting every single week, and you might have to live with him playing a good defense like the Broncos, and maybe he doesn't get in the end zone. Maybe the Colts have to pass a lot in this game
I mean,
and be a
he's
little
probably only
disappointing.
gonna have, like, 45 rushing yards.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be disappointing, but, like, you draft Jonathan Taylor so high that benching him like, you need to have a really good backup running back
Yeah, you're
to
right.
start over Jonathan Taylor.
Fair, fair, but no other Colts probably are in your lineup. You should keep them all out.
Mhm.
Maybe Tyler Warren, but
I would
I
start
think you
Tyler
can
Warren, honestly,
I think
just
you can
because of
find a
what the
better
tight end is.
option.
Just I think of how, like, bleak the tight
Bren
end spot is. Brendan Strange is cool, Hunter
Brendan
Henry's
Strange
cool.
or Tyler Warren this week.
I'd rather have Tyler Warren.
Okay. David Njoku or Tyler
I'd
Warren this
rather have
week?
Tyler Warren.
Huh. Um, wait, I kinda wanna ask you another one, but I'm Kyle Pitts or Tyler Warren? Uh, uh?
I'd still lean towards Tyler Warren, but
Really,
I
I
like
would
what I
start
saw with
Pitts
Kyle
and
Pitts.
Strange. I would definitely go Pitts and Strange, but, Dalton Kincaid or Tyler Warren?
I'm leaning towards Kincaid. I think the Bills are gonna score a lot against the Jets, but the game script might not be so good for him.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. I think I would go Tyler Warren there. Let's go another tight end then. Colston Loveland. Did we see anything we like, or were the Bears just a little too disappointing? Too many mouths to feed?
It's not even like about the Bears not playing that well in week 1 against the Vikings. We saw this a mile away, dude. Like, I don't understand why people are getting so excited about Loveland in fantasy for the season. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's ever going to be what people want. Like, Cole Kmet is a legit receiving option in Chicago, and
Totally.
he is a very good pass catching tight end. He's going to play passing snaps along with Loveland, and they are going to split the field, I think, throughout the season unless a trade happens. And that's just how it's going to be for the entire year. And given how many mouths there are to feed in this offense, that you need the problem with the Bears offense is you need them to be Lions level good with Ben Johnson. And right now they are Bears level good with Ben Johnson, which means not only do you have too many mouths to feed in this offense, but you're not getting elite production from the offense as a whole for you to really garner having a ton of fantasy points. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
DJ Moore didn't play well. Roma Dunze, if he didn't score that touchdown, didn't play well. Loveland and Kmet didn't do much. Like, no one really scored a ton of points for the Bears offense last week, and that's concerning.
Yeah, let's talk about Luther Burden, but before that, Rick Orloff wants to know Ferg or Strange half point PPR. We've got Jake Ferguson playing the New York Giants, and we've got Brendan
Mhm.
Strange playing the Cincinnati Bengals.
I like Strange more. I think he gets a bigger target share
Who's scoring
than
a touchdown?
I think Strange has a better chance of scoring a touchdown this
All
week
right.
than Ferguson.
All right. I like it. Let's go Luther Burden back to the Bears. So, Luther Burden, what do you think? Nothing?
No good, dude. His
Really?
his role in this offense is not good.
Can he earn one?
Yes, but it's gonna take time. Like,
When?
when? I don't know. Does anyone know?
Give me a guess.
Oh man, dude.
You're
Like,
not seeing it until at least week 6, week
yeah, like
9,
week 6 to 8.
maybe week 16. Maybe we never even see it.
I think halfway through the season. Okay, let me think this through. If the
Yeah.
Bears are still bad, like a few weeks into the season,
Yeah.
I think you might see more of Luther Burden
But will that even matter?
but will it matter? But
Probably
fantasy
not.
wise, it does, right? I'm not
Right.
saying
I'm
Luther
saying
Burden's going to come in and win you more
I
games. I'm
I
saying
don't know.
if
If
he
the
gets
Bears are
more
bad,
opportunity, he could score points. But
it's just like a bad Bears team plus
Mhm.
5 good receiving options does not equal fantasy success in my head.
Yeah, and I think even if he's playing, it's still difficult because, like you
Yep.
said, there are mouths to feed on this offense.
Yeah.
You need
I
Luther
think
Burns to carve out a role that isn't there in Chicago.
I think the fact of the matter is with the Chicago Bears is we looked preseason, we looked at this team and we said, if this Ben Johnson run team can be really good, if this offense can be really good, then the assets in that offense, one of them or two of them is going to be really good. So I want to take shots at that offense. I want to draft a guy in this draft. I want to draft Romo Dunze in that draft, Luther
Mhm.
Burden in this draft, because if their Bears offense is really good, I want to have a piece of it. Now, after week 1, I see the Bears and I say, wow, all of these guys are probably going to suck because Romo Dunze is going to get his, DJ Moore has to get his, and if the Bears aren't very good, there's not going to be a lot left for Colston Loveland and Luther Burden when Cole Kmet is also guaranteed, 2 or 3 targets a game. So I'm not very happy with them. I know you're a fan. Like, what does that have anything to do with it too? Are you disappointed?
I'm disappointed with the Bears offense in week 1, yeah, but it was primarily I was disappointed in Caleb Williams because I saw
Yeah.
2 good quarters of Caleb Williams where he was, like, quick in the pocket and productive, and then I saw some
What happened?
really just I don't know, it's just a lot of incomplete passes, like, he missed some open players, and it's kind of like the Caleb we saw a bit last season where he has flashes and then does something kinda stupid, and
Mhm.
the Bears find a way to lose a game that they should have won, which they definitely should have won against the Vikings in week 1. I mean, they're up by 2 scores.
Yeah. I
So,
I think it
yeah,
comes
it's
down to
disappointing.
scripting. I think he's a very scriptable quarterback, and so we saw pieces of success from Caleb Williams in the NFL last year when we have a plan for what are we going to do on this drive? Where are we going to send the ball? How can we put you in positions to make an easy choice? And then we get to the second half and the Vikings make some adjustments.
They did.
And it just seems like Caleb has to make a second look. And when he has to do that, it makes all his throws errant, because he's trying to then move one more inch and then make a perfect throw into a box, and he can't do it anymore. When he just sits back there and has his read and then lets the ball go 1, 2, 3, it's great. I mean, it makes for magic. And then he either, if he doesn't, he'll scramble and he can run and he's speedy and he can make a quick, when he just makes the decision and goes for it, it's great. But when he's left with too many questions of what to do on the field, I really see some difficulties in his game.
Yeah, I don't have much to argue there. I think you and I have a very consistent idea of how we see Caleb Williams right now.
It's going to be this. Honestly, it's like he didn't really get a chance to develop last year. Just coaching was just a huge issue in Chicago. But now it really does seem like he's going to take the time to develop as a quarterback with Ben Johnson. And maybe we see a Jared Goff progression, where Jared Goff had similar issues of, once I'm out of system, I can't play football. But when you have me in system, man, oh man, I can throw for a lot of touchdowns. So we will see with Caleb Williams. Are there any other rookies that you think are most important to talk about? We could talk Caleb Johnson, but wow, is he going to be cuttable by a certain time, or are we going to see him edge out something in this running back room?
I don't think so. So shout out to Matthew Cahan. Cahan talked about why Caleb Johnson isn't going to be a very good running back in the NFL. Again, FantasyBrainz TikTok. But Johnson, throughout all of training camp, we didn't hear good things from him. He comes into the preseason game and looked really bad. And then we start the week off and he's the RB3. But not only is he the RB3, Kenneth Gainwell and Jaylen Warren had production in the Steelers week 1 game against the Jets, where they shared the snaps, and Warren found the end zone, and Gainwell wasn't great, but he was totally serviceable. Now that leaves Johnson on the bench, not even playing. Unless one of those guys get hurt, they look like totally good NFL running backs. So unless Johnson can really prove something and one of them gets hurt, I don't see him being productive at all this season, because how could you?
They just scored so many points and he still wasn't involved at all. I mean, he scored negative points. So we'll see if he can have a bounce back. He's not a terrible football player, but it does look a little rough. Gabe, I appreciate you joining me today. It's always fun talking rookies with you, because you always bring a great perspective on that. And I wanted to make sure that we understand what we're looking towards for the rest of the season. But now, to close it off, I want you to give me 3 guys who are going to score touchdowns this week, and we're going to say see you later.
Chase Brown will get in the end zone this week. Jahmyr Gibbs will get in the end zone this week. And Puka Nacua will get in the end zone this week.
All right, guys, that's your 3-leg parlay right there. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you guys next Sunday. Join us again. Bring some questions.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out leatherbrains.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.